Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you to the member led session Unusual Alliances to Defend Civic Space, locally led inclusive partnership. This session explores how inclusive participatory community engagement strengthens trust, collaboration, and networks, even in restricted civic spaces. We hope that through this session, participants will gain some practical tools for stakeholder mapping, trust building, and navigating those power dynamics, while also learning strategies to amplify the voices of the communities, shared ownership, and build multi-layered partnership. So, without further ado, let me introduce to our moderator. And somehow I think we have lost our moderator. Unfortunately, let's wait for some time. Uh, Apologies for this. Anyways, let's wait for our moderator to join us. But let me also begin introducing our moderator Murat Karypov, and you will see him on the screen very soon. Murat Karypov is the executive director of Human Rights Movement Duino, Kyrgyzstan, the editor of the political online publication Pluralism, and the founder of Center for International and Strategic Studies. He is also member of Constitutional Council of Kyrgyz Republic, which was responsible for drafting the current edition of Constitution of Kyrgyzstan. So Murat serves as the focal point for GNDR for disaster risk reduction and is a partner of international organization called Forum Asia as well. His work focuses on promoting human rights, strengthening democratic governance, and enhancing community resilience. So while we wait for Murat, and he's here, Murat, we have kindly introduced yourself in your absence. I believe there is some technical glitch, but now I will hand it over to you to take forward this session. Thank you all. Murat, over to you.
Hope you can hear me. Thank you very much for this presentation. Dear partners, dear colleagues, thank you for this discussion today regarding your peculiar points of your activities, of your missions, of the work that you are implementing, especially on the grassroots level. Here, actually, my first question, it's
Murat, you still with us? Apologies all for this technical glitch. It was okay before.
with
Murat, you're still with us?
Hi,
uh,
Shivangi.
Yes, Jacqueline.
Yeah, he's here. He was disconnected. Hi, Murat, we can hear you.
yeah. Sorry for some kind of with our beneficiaries on the grassroots level with local communities. My first question will be, it's a really great pleasure today that we are with representatives of different NGOs from all over the world. And my first question will be for Abubakar. Can you please introduce yourself, your work that you are doing, and you especially your activities, and also my not only about production, but also what you think that core governance and this is really important for effective collaboration and effective collaboration.
Thank you very much, Murat. I think there's some technical hitch, but I hope you can also hear me. So my name is Abubakar Said from Kenya. I work with IFA charity organization as a region coordinator, and the organization basically works around building the capacity of communities to have more knowledge about disaster management and also climate change, among other things. And yeah, we're based in Kenya, but we work in around Eastern Central Africa, the Kenya office. So thank you. That's a very good question. The question is, why do I think co-governance and building shared ownership is important? Effective collaboration. Yeah. So first, when you look at when you look at civil society in general, the habit or the tradition has been, as civil society, work on our own, and we work mostly to hold the government to account, and we usually do it most of the time from because of our history and tradition. Is usually it looks like it's more of an adversarial nature. So when you talk about co-governance, it means working together, civil society and government, or right holders and duty bearers. How can we cooperate? So what we're saying is, co-governance and shared ownership are really essential, because they usually transform the nature of collaboration, so that we move from transactional and that adversarial relationship into a more sustainable partnership, which is grounded on mutual self-interests, especially when you look at the current situation where we have a lot of restricted civic spaces. Actually, when you look at the Civic's report, 44 out of 49 countries in Africa are operating in what we call restrictive civic space, whereby there's a lot of, restriction in terms of registration, in terms of laws. You find that maybe anti-terrorism laws are being used to curtail how civil society are doing their work. So in such a situation, it's important to find a way to work together with the different stakeholders to ensure that the work can still be done. So there are different pathways which we can follow to ensure that co-governance really is effective. So one way is creating multiple anchors for accountability. Here we're talking about working with traditional leaders, local communities, business owners, and so we co-own. So what we do is, when you work with all these institution, what we say is we co-own the aspect of transparency and accountability agenda, so that it's not only civil society who is asking for accountability, but also the business owners, the traditional leaders, the elders. Everybody is working towards asking about accountability, so the backlash will be managed. All right. So what happens is, all these are invested partners in this, asking for accountability, and it's harder for hostile actors to dismiss civic engagement as external agitation. They see it, many people are involved. Another pathway is, we do what we call building resilience through distributed ownership. So what we're saying is that the initiative is owned by all these actors. Again, not one actor. So what happens is, when you're successful, the success is shared by all the actors. And if there's backlash, again, it's not easy because many people are involved, and so there's solidarity. You can push back, and so the alliance is safe. Okay. The other way, in terms of co-governance and shared ownership, is we legitimize civic space from within. So what you're saying is, when you do co-governance, it reframes civic engagement as a normal, legitimate of how communities are governed. So instead of civil society being portrayed as an outsider troublemaker, when we work with local communities, including even, let's say, legislators, politicians, for example, it becomes, now everybody, again, the ownership is for everybody, and then there's a lot of legitimacy, and so again, there's a lot of protection when maybe laws are used, when people want to use laws to legitimize our civic action. And finally, we create protected civics, protected spaces for dialogue. So when we formalize the shared ownership through, let's say, doing memorandum of understanding with the different institutions, again, there's a lot of protection. So what you're saying is, core governance moves civil society from being uh, a supplicant or a challenger, so that to being a co-manager of democratic processes. So these shifts is not a retreat from advocacy, but it is a strategic expansion. So whereby we get a larger circle of stakeholders who have vested interest in keeping the civic space open. So we look at it from the angle of shrinking civic space. So collaborate, work with other organizations. It's safer, you get more results and more people involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abubakar. Mashallah. It's so great. And, actually, you mentioned really meaningful point regarding the multi-stakeholder cooperation. And what do you think? Is it can this be also effective component for building of transparency and accountability, especially when we talk about cooperation with the government? Yeah.
Yes. It will. It does. It does. It does. It does.
Great, great. Thank you so much for a so detailed response. And my next question will be for Obot. Uh, you know, uh, just the same question. Can you also introduce yourself, please? And what do you think? How can we also, what should maybe some issues that we should think over about the increasing and strengthening of their civic engagement when we talk about especially the situation with the shrinking of civic space, with the restricted civic society, restricted society for civil society organizations?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Akaninyene Patrick Obot. I'm the focal person for Okana Waste 2 Community-Based Health Initiative, primary health center, equally that's in Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. And in Okana Waste Community-Based Health Initiative, that's CBHI, that's the acronym. In CBHI, what we do is we basically advocate for equitable access to quality healthcare services for everybody without hindrances and without discrimination. Because what we realize is that like in my country, Nigeria, we have 774 local governments, and each of these local governments, we have the primary health centers in each of these local governments. And the primary health centers are basically they are supposed to be the first point of call for any healthcare need in any society. But in my country, in Nigeria, it's not like that. Sometimes we jump the gun. Someone might be sick now, and he's being rushed to the secondary hospital or tertiary. I mean, for secondary healthcare at the secondary level, or for tertiary healthcare at the tertiary level. And primary health care center being located in the local community, uh, uh, the local people where the thing is located are not even having access to the primary health care center, because most of them are dysfunctional. Like we have 34,000 plus primary health centers across Nigeria, and just like less than 20% are functional, which becomes a problem. And in CBHA, what we do is that we try to educate the community people to own up to their health care, because I mean their health anyways. That's why at my background you see like what's written there. It says in some way that's in Anna dialect. It says health is wealth. When you are healthy, you are wealthy. Someone might be wealthy, but it's not healthy, which is a problem. So we try to make the community to own up to their health, to the health, to the well-being of their health and their system. And what we do is that we make them, or we educate them, and we train them, and also try to make them to be part and parcel of the healthcare delivery in at the primary health center, because they have to hold the healthcare providers accountable to make their healthcare centers to be functional, to make it to be functional. So in a restricted space where the civil society are not operational, mostly at the rural community, we try to we try to engage the rural community to be part and parcel of the voices, or of the civil society move to make healthcare centers to be functional in Nigeria, and to also make people to be people to have access to primary health care, a functional primary health care need, before that being referred to secondary, for secondary healthcare services or tertiary healthcare services and something. So we work in this restricted space of community level, linking the community needs to the government and to the policy makers, because ordinarily the policymakers might not hear the voices of the community people. And sometimes the policymakers also, sometimes they feel that what they are doing to the community is just to benefit the community, but they've not come down to ask the community what they really need, what is their need, so that they can be brought into a dialogue table whereby the voices of the civil society is being heard through this. So we act as a civil society to make the voice of the community to be heard by the government and by the policymakers, so that whatever programs that they are coming up with, mostly when it comes to the healthcare need, when it comes to empowerment of the community people, the community voices are being heard, even in a restricted civil space. Because so far so well, if we look around, the community people are being left out of most of government programs. I mean, they are not people oriented. I mean, in my country, Nigeria, I'm using my country as an example, and even in my community. So we try to bridge this gap of making the community people voices to be heard when it comes to healthcare need, and their voices is heard through functional primary health care center, and through them having equitable access to quality healthcare need whenever they're in need of health services. So that's what we do in CBHI, and we also collaborate with other civil societies to see how to broaden, and also to make our voices to be loud in a restricted civil space in Nigeria, and even in Akwa Ibom State. That's my state. So that's basically what we do.
Murat, Murat, sorry to interrupt. I think your internet is not good. Can you please repeat? And you can keep your video off if that helps.
So much. I will repeat the comment. I would like to appreciate Akaninyene for his introduction, and also I'm that's really main opinion. That's really key, especially when talking about implementation of the advocacy campaign and the activity targeting from local level. You know,
Unfortunately, we can't hear you properly, Murat. But in essence of
yeah.
time, Murat, can you rejoin us? And in the meantime, I can take the discussion forward if that's okay with you.
Okay. Okay. I will.
Yeah, you can rejoin us. The sound is not clear, so maybe if you can rejoin. But I think let's move to our third speaker, and Shahina. Thank you for being here, and we'll let you introduce yourself and your work. But the question, or what we want to know, is your experience of convening and amplifying local actors' voices and keeping them at the center of networking and collaborations. So if you can elaborate more on your work and let us know how do you do that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, colleagues. My name is Shahina Bahar. I am a senior lead with the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, which is part of Save the Children UK. But previously, I was with the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, working with Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies in the Americas and the Middle East, North Africa. And I've also worked in participatory policymaking and advocacy, working with youth movements in Brazil, sexual reproductive health organizations in Southern Africa, and also within the UK. So Humanitarian Leadership Academy, who I'm working with at the moment, they're really about accelerating the movement for locally led action by strengthening local humanitarian leadership, through digital learning, making coaching and mentoring available, as well as amplifying local voices through webinars, podcasts, locally led research. What I wanted to speak about particularly was a series of events called HXs, or Humanitarian Exchanges, which since 2024 were held in different countries, mainly in cities. So it was in Gaziantep, Sarajevo in 2024, and then Baghdad, Kampala, and Port Sudan in 2025. And the idea was really to bring together local and national actors, together with donors, in some cases the private sector, but really to get groups of actors that were really in the places where crises actually take place, and utilizing the knowledge and experiences of local and national actors to talk about areas of interest, dynamic spaces where there would be more meaningful collaboration around different issues related to localization, shifting power, resilience building, sustainability, innovation, youth engagement. But there were also, each of the sessions were contextually focused. So for example, in Sudan and Iraq, it was really a discussion space around what would a post-conflict context look like for these countries that are in protracted crises. And then this would bring together a range of different actors. Majority were local NGOs, international, and then others, from academia. And really, it's some of the learning really was around how to move away from local national actors just proposing ideas and what they want to discuss, to actually co-creating and designing sessions with the aim of this being sort of local actor-led. And really it was around knowledge generation, exchange, but also when we did a follow-up with many of the organizations and actors that were represented, they said that they felt sort of seen and heard, a level of representation which they don't usually get. Because let's be honest, usually the convening spaces that exist, the decision-making spaces, are, in, the corridors of power. They're very, very restricted, very formal, and even, many local and national actors don't have access to decision makers. And so there's a lot of learning around how do you then create some of these spaces in proximity to, or in those places, as I mentioned, where crises are happening. But I also wanted to touch on some other experiences that are about amplifying local actor voices. When I worked with the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, there was a big focus on what distributed leadership looks like. Leadership isn't just who holds formal authority and certain positions in governance or in management. But, if you think about mutual aid and who actually are first responders, the importance of volunteers, I do want to highlight that there's a lot of civil society, a large section, which isn't part of formal civil society, that may be more grassroots, community-based, and actually people with lived experience. But also there, I've had other experiences of how you engage, let's say, groups of young people to speak to decision makers and leaders, and how do you sort of prepare them to sort of speak truth to power as well. I think there's a responsibility when you're also either creating spaces or creating space in these existing formal fora that exists for decision making or policy making that's usually exclusive. How do you support a range of different actors to come in and articulate their voice? So I think it's really just, as the title of this session is about, the sort of alliances we need, because civic space is definitely constricting. the civil liberties for many of us in many different countries is also becoming more restrictive. And I feel that at some point there may have been not a peak, but there was a lot of really good practice, which I hope is not lost, around what meaningful participation and civic engagement looks like. But if anything, we probably need to be even more organized, take more concerted efforts to demand seats on the table, but also create those other alliances with different groups to make sure then, if we're not being invited into these formal spaces, then creating other spaces or other gatherings, whether they be temporary or permanent, which is what the HXs are about, to sort of, generate demands, share experiences, but also be sort of a counterpoint to what are sometimes quite restricted channels and platforms.
Right. Thanks, Shahina, for your reflection, and I really could summarize it like, you need to create enabling space for the local communities to be able to uh, do the systemic collaborations with the other actors, but also have a very formalized spaces and role in the decision making processes with the policymakers. And it's not an easy thing, as I say. You need to sometimes also uh, uh, do lots of advocacy at the local level, especially when we have a very restricted civic space. Thank you for your intervention. And we now move to round two. And Murat, if you are still with us, if you can try speaking.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. Hope I reconnected. Can you hear me right
Yeah,
now?
yeah, you are much better. And we are now moving to round two
Great.
of our interventions. Thank you.
Great.
Over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Starting from the round two, we would like to raise the question regarding the key challenges that you are facing with, especially on convening the voices of your local actors, and here especially the challenges that you encounter when trying to build shared ownership and convene communities and local actors.
I think this might be to me first. Is it, Murat? Just checking.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
not,
yeah,
I
please.
can take it. So I'd sort of had alluded to this in the previous response, but one is who? Who do you actually have in the spaces? I mentioned that there's the sort of organized civil society, local NGOs, registered CBOs. But what we found when running some of these HX events was, how do you include non-registered actors, the informal actors? And that's quite important because they are usually excluded. But also, how do you create access and space for those with lived experience, women, young people, refugees, rural communities? But also, how do you sort of counter the barriers for their attendance? And some of that is even just practical aspects around transportation, location, internet connectivity, as we've seen today. But also, you'll also, individuals are, and identity is multi-layered. No one is just one thing. So, I feel sometimes organizations and, a lot of policymakers and decision makers can't always deal with that level of complexity. So, for example, we ran an event in Uganda and also Sudan, but some of the organizations from Sudan, for them, it made more sense to be part of what the event we were running in Uganda. A national event doesn't mean homogeneity. You have to think about what's happening on the border areas, or in some other instances, what happens on the margins, what happens on, outside, what happens on the periphery. People are mobile, forced or otherwise. How do you engage the diaspora? So I think that's really important, as well as levels of representation. So you make sure that it's not tokenistic. How do you bring the unusual actors into certain spaces? When I worked with Oxfam as Surge for the Beirut blast response during COVID, we worked really hard to ensure that the humanitarian response in a quite fractured urban environment involved queer organizations, women survivors of GBV, domestic migrant laborers, and you have to understand the power dynamics when you are in a space and make sure that you're not replicating that as well. Follow-up is also really important. We found with some of the events that we were running, there's such energy to sort of continue to engage, but you have to balance that with sustainability and making sure that these initiatives are locally owned, but they do sometimes need support, visibility, resources from outside. And that's where the sort of collaborations and alliances sort of come about. And then finally, I guess I would say that not all of these spaces where we're convening different groups are decision-making spaces. So we have to manage a level of expectation, a level of legitimacy almost as well. But we can facilitate access to decision makers or other platforms where decision making does take place. And I've done quite a bit of work with young people on how do you help them articulate their voice. Participation should not be a burden. If you are putting people forward and encouraging them to be more vocal and visible, together with that, especially with the attacks on sort of civil liberties and civic space, you've got to make sure that these are safe spaces and courageous spaces, as well as balancing that with confidentiality. You can be visibilizing and platforming colleagues, but also there's a responsibility. If you are working with GBV survivors, refugees, or people who've got a history of the care system, for example, you have to also do it with an ethic of care and compassion, well-being, because this is a human element as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahina. That's really great that you mentioned the issues regarding the sustainability nowadays, because situation with the shrinking of civic space nowadays is all spread all over the world, and a lot of countries, a lot of NGOs who work especially with local communities, they face with such kind of challenges. That shows that we should also think over about how to consolidate, how to unite our efforts, especially when we talk about the advocacy campaigns. Yeah, thank you so much one more time. My next question will be for Akaninyene. Can you please share about the challenges that you faced and how you tackle them, and what's your actually maybe methodology, or what's your approach how to face with these challenges?
In my working at the community level, we face so many challenges on daily basis. Like example, I would say one of the challenges that we face is you have to, when you are working at community level, you have to first understand that every community they have what we call gatekeepers. That's the leaders in those communities. And you cannot just go into a community and start operating without getting the consent of the leaders. Those are the gatekeepers. And they have to give you their consent before you can do anything in that community, and you work with them. You work hand in hand with them. Now, when you're going to work with them, you also discover that most of them do not have formal education like every one of us, meaning that when you go to their space, you behave like them. You just have to respect them. That's what I'm trying to say. Whether you are a professor, whether you have doctorate degree, whatever degree that you have, whatever knowledge that you have to just respect their space, respect who who you've seen, or who are the gatekeepers of the community. And once you give them that respect, you are now able to penetrate them and get their consent and also work with them. Because one thing I've come to realize, like I mentioned earlier, that in Nigeria we have about 30-something thousand primary health centers, and only 20% are functional. Now, these primary health centers are located in communities, and they are not functional. And many a times we say that governments are the cause of non-functionality of these primary health centers. But we forget to say that a lack of community ownership of these primary health centers make them also, it's also a contributive part of why the primary health centers are not working, because the community are not involved in the ownership of that primary health centers. So it doesn't work that way. So one of the challenges is you have to lobby them. Whatever way you know how to lobby them, you just have to lobby them to get their consent and to get their blessing to do whatever you want to do. And another challenge that we face is that in the communities that we've worked so far, communities that we work so far with, there is high poverty. And what we mean, that the UN said, I think someone living below, I think $1.9 a day is poor and something. And in this community, at this community level, most of them are poor. And when they are poor like that, they seems to be taking, that's they don't, what the government bring to them might not be what they want, but they have to accept it because of their poverty state and something. So the poverty now becomes a problem to making their voices to be heard, and even the civil society working in the communities also, sometimes it becomes difficult also to even work in the community, because you are working in a poverty, a poor, strident community, and it becomes difficult for your work to be seen and everything. So one of the things that we do, I mentioned that we also collaborate with other people. We also collaborate with other civil societies that are into empowerment of community people, and we bring them in and see how we can empower the community people to be able to strengthen their financial state so that they can stand on their own. And once they stand on their own, they're able to have their voices. They're able to say what they want to say, and then their voices, even if it's short, but it's not completely shut down and something. So poverty was another thing. And the next thing that we also, another thing that we also experience in our working with them is also that uh, these guys, am I gonna put it now? They believe their belief system is also kind of different from. Different from. You might be in the civil society space, and what you are taking to them might not be what they believe, might not be their belief, and you have to see how to I don't know. You have to see how to harmonize everything so that you can be able to do what you have to do. What you need to do for them. That means education. Educating them and making them to have a buy-in to what you are bringing to improve their life is very important when it comes to working at the community level, and working at the community level and something. And I think the next thing was also the lack of facilities. Like the first, my first speaker, Shahina said, facilities are lacking at the community level. These guys, the need. Sometimes you go to places that the roads are not motorable, and sometimes there were moments that we have to climb motorbike to get to the community that we are going to, even if we are going to do health, we are doing mobile health service. There are some places that are not motorable, so you have to go on bike, and you have to go on, sometimes you have to go with bicycle and something. So sometimes it just, there are so many challenges, but I'm not going to go into all that. But the main thing, or the major thing, or one of the ways that we see how to overcome these challenges is that we try to strengthen the community people. We try to strengthen the through empowerment program that will help them to enhance their income and their finances, so that they can be able to take care of themselves and even their community. And we also try to advocate to government, also very important, the government and the stakeholder, that this community needs so and so. So we work with community and we work with government, policymakers, and see how to bring their needs to the center table so that it can be attended to, while we're also doing our own part. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akanine. Issue regarding the challenge that you mentioned about the lack of facilities, lack of infrastructure. That's really meaningful. And actually, to be honest, this challenge is also familiar to our country, to Kyrgyzstan, to Central Asia. And that's, I think, this challenge that you mentioned, actually, it it shows the similarity between, even despite of the fact that we are very far from each other. Actually, this issue, this challenge, actually, it shows our similarity between our nations. Thank you so much, Akanini. I would like to raise the question regarding the challenges to Abubakar. Dear Abubakar, can you please mention the challenges that you are also facing in when you try to create co-governance models
Mhm,
in
mhm.
societies with restricted civic space?
Thank you very much, Murat. Yeah, actually, yeah. So very interesting. You see, by nature, civil society organizations have been viewed as with a question mark, as in they're getting funding from foreigners. What is their agenda? They're bringing things which may not be in line with the culture of the community. They're always, the civil society are known for always questioning the government, especially civil society working on governance and human rights aspects. Um, Okay, so with that in mind, when you talk about co-governance, meaning creating, working together with both the duty bearers, you can already start to see the problem. So there's the issue of mistrust. It's not very easy for the duty bearers, let's say the local governments, to come on board. They'll come on board, but they'll always be, pensive, not very sure. Um, Also, and then there's the issue of political retaliation. So you see, as civil society, remember, our work is to ask the hard questions. Are there services? Why is the government maybe delaying in doing a BCD? We are looking for transparency and accountability. So now, when you do that, the people, I mean, the politicians in that particular area will feel like, now these people are questioning my leadership. So now you can get what we call political retaliation, because you'll be seen as if you are coopting community members to question political leadership within that particular area. So again, it limits the ability for that governance to be able to work out. All right. And then, of course, there's the aspect of you want to bring people on board, you work together to pull together. But now you find people have want divide expectations, so that so that if let's say in your community you have civil society, you have religious leaders, the business people, you have, let's say, you have traditional leaders, and you may find that some people there may not be seeing the same vision. All right. So maybe a business leader may expect quick, measurable results. Okay. A traditional leader may want, for you to respect him as a religious leader. So even engaging, be, be very careful. Let's say, for example, even if, let's say, you even when it comes to finances, if you start asking how are you using these resources, this person will be like, I mean, I'm a religious leader. How comes you're asking me something like this? So you can see the issue. So that's the issue of different expectations. And then there's also the aspect of resource constraints as the final one. So let's say you still want to work together as a group, as a network, but again, you need resources to put that group together. Even if it's not a lot of resources, but you still need resources. So that also hinders the aspect of working together. And then, so what you say? The last one is there's also, and I think my colleagues had mentioned that, protecting these partners from harm, because remember, as civil society, maybe we are used to, push and pull with the duty bearers, the government. So there's the aspect of being, either harassed, something like that. But some people are not used to this kind of lifestyle. So when they are part of your team and it happens, they might feel, that they get into an area where they're not comfortable. So, and we're not able to protect them from that kind of a situation. So that's another challenge, because people will ask, yeah, we want to be part of this network of holding leaders to account, but we are not ready to be taken to court, to be, such like things. Because remember, there's always the aspect of, with this confrontation with the government, there's a possibility of someone being taken to court, I mean to jail, or to police station for over the weekend, a whole week, detention without trial. So some people are not comfortable with that. And also, in terms of even getting resources to bail out people, it's not, I mean, that's a challenge. So those are some of the challenges, and they hinder the issue of co-governance and working together with other players. Thank you. Over to you, Murat.
I think we have lost Abubakar, but Murat, you there? Can you hear us, Murat?
Yeah. I think, Abubakar, he was finalizing his opinion. I hope he will also reconnect and join the final part of our today's discussion. Yeah, and dear Shwangi, can we also ask our participants also right now regarding the Q&A session? If the floor is open. If you have some questions for clarification, or maybe some also your personal opinions, please. Uh, the floor is open, and also, yeah, if not, we can also wrap up our today's discussion.
I think we have one question, Murat, and let me bring in Shahina to that question. The question is anonymous, but let's see. The question is that the US is facing shrinking civic space. It's a very interesting point that made, increasing suppression and violence, and they would like to learn from the colleagues around the world who have lived in experience for any words of wisdom to continue to organize civil society in the face of government operations. So, Shaina, with all your experiences, if you can throw some reflection on that or throw some light on that, please.
Um,
Yeah.
This is not an easy one. I mean, colleagues, these are really challenging times on many, many levels. And I'm not talking professionally, it's personally. But I do think, what has already been mentioned, solidarity, joy, care, even to hope is very radical in these days. That's all part of freedom and liberation. And look for where things are working, celebrate the small wins. I very much believe, I studied power analysis as part of my master's, but actually it taught me a lot about what love looks like. And there is a quote, and I'm only going to use a bit of it, but justice is what love looks like in public. So, if it comes back to belonging, collective care, hope, joy, all of, a lot of that is entwined in the fight for freedom and justice for many of us.
Right. Thank you so much, Shahina. And I think we have almost come to an end of the session. And Murat, over to you to just wrap up with our colleagues, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shwangi. Yeah, dear experts, dear speakers, just really great opinions, really interesting discussion. And just finalizing our today's discussion, our final question will be, can you please, within 2 minutes, can you just kindly share one insight and one key learning for our participants? And this final session, I would like to start from Akaninyene. Dear Kanik, within 2 minutes, can you share, please, one insight and one key learning for our participants?
Okay. One insight and one key learning from my working. I mean, after how many years working at the community level, is that the in Africa majorly. Let me use Africa because I'm from Africa, anyways. Government don't want the voices of the community people to be heard. That's like Abubakar said. Sometimes there is a lot of opposition with what you are trying to do at the community level, and what you basically can do is for you to see a way of lobbying the policymakers to see from the lens of the community people, because the community people, majorly, they will not, or they might not be able or have the voice or the boldness or the audacity to confront the policymakers. So that's why we are in the civil society. So like, civil society is majorly about boldness. Like my sister said, Shahina said, it's about boldness, because peace is the anchor of transparency and everything. But policymakers in Africa, majorly in Africa, they don't want transparency and something. And you are when once you are in the civil society, you know that you are into confrontation with bad governance, and you have to be prepared for it. I'm not trying to scare anybody. You have to be prepared for it. That lobbying is one of the keys of engaging the policymakers, making the voices of the community to be heard. We are not at enmity with them. We are in partnership with them to improve our communities and to build a better society for everybody. So we are in partnership with government. We are in partnership with community level to make the voices of the people to be heard for a good, for a better society. So that's just one of my takes in my years of working at the community level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akaninyene. That's really important opinion. And the same question regarding the one key insight and uh, the key learning, I would like to ask the same question to Abubakar. Abubakar, can you hear us? I think probably Abubakar may be also facing some technical issues. But while we are waiting for him, actually, can I just kindly ask Shahina to respond the same question about one insight and the key learning from the session, for especially to share with our participants today?
Um, okay, I will try and summarize because I know we've gone over time as well and there's other sessions. I think for authentic, locally led initiatives, the intention and initial design needs to be a key part. It's not something you can just add on to the end. But also organizations, including like mine, need to know when to step out the way or step back and when to cede space and create that space. And then I guess, given that we work on knowledge, the creation and generation of knowledge and sharing of knowledge, it doesn't mean anything if it's not combined with action. Gloria mentioned in the start and the opening, about lived resilience. Jose talked about, resilience is not constructed in the centers of power, but on the land by communities. So if we don't value the knowledge, wisdom, intelligence, and if you don't move capacity to action or find the intersection of how to sort of do that, then it's somewhat meaningless. And as the final quote, knowledge is only a rumor until it is lived in the muscle. And that's from the Asaro community in Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. So unless we actually sort of move to action, this will be in vain, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thank you so much, Shahina, for your opinion. I think Abubakar probably he faced with some technical issues, but let me appreciate one more time our speakers today. That was very meaningful. That was really important. I hope that it's not only our last discussion. I hope it's just only the beginning of our further discussions regarding how to develop, how to face the challenges nowadays, because a lot of situation regarding the thinking of civic space in our countries, when we face new challenges, when we see that our government doing, they try to create some artificial challenges, barriers for our activities, for our missions. And that's why it's very important for us to think over maybe some new opportunities about the multi-stakeholder discussions, multi-stakeholder approach, and especially, and here, just my very brief comment will be regarding also that Akaninyene mentioned, and Abubakar also in their presentations about their what we should, how we can face with these challenges. What should we do? Because a lot of issues regarding the poverty, lack of infrastructure, lack of facilities, and actually the situation is really challenging all over the world. And yeah, I hope we will all meet, not only discuss think, or not only some challenges, but maybe also thinking over about new opportunities, maybe some innovative approach. So I hope let's try to stay positive, and thank you so much for today's discussion. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Right. Thank you so much, Murat, and thank you all the speakers and the attendees for this member-led session. We really, really apologize for the technical glitch that our moderator had, and also our participant. But we are in this world where when we do this online, it's inevitable sometimes, and we are all far off. So please pardon us for that. But we hope that you enjoyed the session. Some really beautiful takeaways from today's session, and as Murat said, we should continue this discussion, especially this next 4 days. We'll be very happy if you join us tomorrow at 12 p.m. GMT for day 2 of our global summit, for many, many more meaningful sessions such as this. Thank you all. Thank you for your presence. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.